second day of the conference. I mean, honestly, I'm tired myself, but I cannot go to sleep because I have to give this talk. But you can, it's fine, because this talk is actually about sleeping. I can see you back there. It's okay. Don't worry, take a nap. Because this talk is about sleeping better at night with Cypress and in testing with General. And the thing is that we do sleep better at night when we know that we did our job right, that no one is going to call us at 2 a.m. in the middle of the night telling us that production is down. But I would like to start this talk by talking about the most important person here in React India, and that person is you. You. Off we go. Because there's only one of me, and there's 212 of you, and those probably like 8 on YouTube, knowing my viewing numbers. So I have a question for all of you. Why are you afraid of pushing stuff to production on Friday? Like, why is that? What's the difference between Tuesday and Friday when it comes to pushing to prod? Well, there's an ongoing debate, going on Twitter and other social media. So you have like those very smart people like Kelly who's saying that don't push to production on Friday. And then you have this asshole who's saying, it's Friday, push to prod, break the world. Like, who is correct here? Well, I don't know. So what I did, I asked some team of elite scientists from Poland, and this is what they came up with. So if you do a production deploy on Friday, it's 120% likely that it's going to break. That is not true, but this is what we feel, and we want to feel safe. And in order to feel safe, I think we need to talk a bit about testing for the next 28 minutes. My name is Tomasz Łakomy. I work as a senior front-end engineer at Olex Group. You can find me on Twitter at Łakomy. I tweet quite a lot, and you should follow me because I'm smart, handsome, funny, and humble. I work for Olex Group, and Olex Group is this incredible company because we operate a huge number of websites all across the globe. For instance, we operate Olex Poland, which is the number 8th, the biggest website in Poland, and we also operate Olex India, which is, I've been told, one of the biggest online marketplaces in this country, where you can buy, sell, and find just about anything. And of course, we have like multiple offices, including India and Europe. I would like to see all of you join us because I would love to recommend all of you. I could use some extra cash, And the reason why I'm mentioning also the fact that we have so many websites is that, for instance, in Europe, we are responsible for 8 different countries. So the question that we are trying to answer every single time we push something new to production is, does it actually work? Because if you have 8 different countries, like testing is difficult. But there's also another underlying question. Why do we care in the first place? Because let's be fair, in most companies, you will probably get paid at the end of each month anyway, right? So it's not about the money. It's about something else. And I think it's about empathy, as in we need to care deeply about multiple groups of people. For instance, we need to take care of our team members. Because if you do a YOLO release at 8 p.m. on Friday, like someone probably may or may not have to stay longer, fix it, roll back it, and it's not fun for this person. They should probably be able to spend weekends with their families, not to have to roll back your feature. And also we care about our users because we want to give them the best experience. And I feel like this boils down to the feeling of empathy and also ownership. One of our core values at Olex is take ownership. I actually have a laptop sticker over here, take ownership. And ownership means you build it, you ship it, you own it, and it's yours, and you have this responsibility for this part of the system. Now, I know this approach doesn't translate too well to like large number of companies and engineering teams, and trust me, I've been there. But this is a change that you can make in your own mind, to care deeply about users and what you are getting them. And when it comes to ownership, where there are cakes in there, I have this one user who I care about quite deeply, and it's my mom. My mom is running a small cake business on Olex Poland, and if a production is down, I get to write an incident report to my mom, which, trust me, is not fun. Like basically you have to write an email, sorry mom, I broke production. So what happens is that somebody was playing Snoop Dogg in the office, and he said, drop it like it's hot. And I thought, drop the database. So yeah, I did that. Sorry. But in any case, we should care deeply about our users because they do deserve to get the best user experience that we can give them. And also, we, as human beings, we need to feel safe. Because the thing is that mental health is a huge topic in development communities for the last couple of years, and I think it's hugely important for us to be able to ship our code to production and not have to worry for the entire evening if it's fine, if it's going to work or not. And testing is probably the answer, but the question is, are unit tests the answer? You cannot do a talk about testing without addressing unit tests because it's not legal. And the question is whether unit tests are the answer. Well, I don't know. Maybe, probably. It depends on your context. What I do know that unit tests are hugely useful. I do recommend them. But if you aim for 100% test coverage, you may end up with this. I mean, it is 100% test coverage, right? Like every single thing fits. This is, of course, a funny image, but still, I think it underlines a bigger problem. The problem is that if you misunderstood the requirements, like we did here, you build the wrong code, and then you write unit tests to test if your code is exactly as bad as you thought it is. And you just ship it, and then, for instance, user is not able to do the action they wanted to do. And don't get me wrong, like I said, I'm a huge fan of unit tests, so my team is operating as a small startup within OLX Poland, and we have 3 front-end engineers and over 12,000 unit tests. So we care about unit tests deeply, but they are not the silver bullet. We need to be able to test things from the user's perspective. And this is why more and more teams are turning towards automation, because automated tests allows you to test things from the perspective of the user, which means that those tests are going to actually click on buttons, use forms, use drop-downs, and interact with your UI. Because this may sound harsh, but you know who cares about unit tests? Only you, the developers. You know who doesn't? Everybody else. I mean, seriously, even you don't care about unit tests. Like, imagine if you're trying to order a pizza, and there are like 3 different websites. Do you check how many unit tests they have? No, you don't care. What you care about, and this is what the users also care about, is being able to log in, order a pizza, whether it's cheap, whether it's going to be actually delivered. And this is what you care about. Users don't want to use your app. They want to be done using your app so they can move on with their lives. Like, no one is enjoying searching for a movie on Netflix. We are enjoying watching Netflix. And this is why I need to be able to automate our testing to know that the core users flow are actually working. And automated tests is not a new concept. They've been around for quite some time. And me personally, as an engineer, I've been a part of a couple of engineering teams in different companies. And in most of those teams, we did attempt some sort of automated testing. So I would like to take you on a quick trip of the automated tests in ancient times, like early 2018, before I started using Cypress. So we had a couple of common pain points. One of them was stability issues. As in, we had tests that were passing on Monday, failing on Tuesday, then passing again on Wednesday. And you know, some of the tests were passing because of the position between Mars and Jupiter. If they're aligned, the test would pass. And this is, honestly, this is not fun to maintain. And also, some of those tests were difficult to write and harder to debug. I was a beginner JavaScript engineer back then, and for instance, I had to write tests using Python or Java, which also added a mental overhead because I needed to switch context to a different programming language. And in many cases, those tests were hard to debug because you had to depend on logs. Maybe not like those, but like gigabytes of logs on Jenkins. You have to scroll down and find that you missed a selector here and there. And all of it added to a complete distrust in those tests. As in, we didn't care if those tests were passing or not, because they were like failing randomly all the time. And I'm absolutely dead honest right now. It's better to have no tests whatsoever than to have randomly passing or failing tests. Because if you have no tests, then at least you are honest. Every single release is a YOLO release. I have no idea what I'm doing. But if you have randomly failing tests, it's tricky, because you cannot have this feeling of safetiness that we care deeply about for our own mental health. So our plan should be to go from this automated tests are failing, like, who cares? They're unstable anyway, they're failing all the time, to automated tests are failing, holy moly, it's an alarm. Like, we shouldn't be able to for instance, merge anything if those tests are not passing, because we need to trust them. And if the machine is saying, hey, Tomasz, your users won't be able to log in after you merge that, well, then you probably shouldn't. And I do strongly believe that with Cypress, things are different. Because as they say on the web page, and it's written with a large font, so I do believe that, the web has evolved. And finally, testing has as well. And it's an incredible tool. I've been using it professionally for the last 18 months. And I think that Cypress does quite a lot of things rather differently, and in my humble opinion, better than other solutions that I've been using so far. So it's different with Cypress.io. There's no Selenium, there's no magic. You are not talking to an external engine which is then sending commands to Mars, which is then sending commands somehow to your browser. It's very complicated, you have no idea how it works. No, Cypress works within your browser, which means that you have this familiar environment for you to test in. Also, you can debug the way that you are used to. If you are familiar with From DevTools, you can use those skills in order to debug your tests as you develop them. You also get real-time reload and this instant feedback loop, which means that if you develop a Cypress test and you save it, it's going to restart automatically, and you don't have to restart the whole pipeline or restart a Java virtual machine or anything like that. It's just going to restart, which, in other words, you have test-driven development. So it's TD, TDD. You can also use JavaScript to test JavaScript code, which makes sense. I'm not going to say it's simple, because I've listened to Caroline, and the thing is that JavaScript is not simple. But if you are OK with JavaScript and OK with From DevTools, you can use those skills that you've acquired previously in order to write automated tests for your app. So those skills are going to translate rather nicely. The only thing that you have to learn is the Cypress API, which is really well documented. There you also get automatic screenshots and video recording, which is a feature that is available in other automated test solutions, but it's also in Cypress, so I think it's worth a mention. So what I would like to do is that I don't think this is going to load on the conference Wi-Fi, so I'm going to show you two examples of tests. Yeah, this is my wallpaper, by the way, don't laugh. So I'm going to show you two examples of tests of how we can test our two core user flows. One of them is buying something, and second is selling something. So I'm going to be trying to test how can user buy an iPhone in Goa. So I'm going to start this test. It's going to open a production environment. It's going to search for Goa. It's going to search for an iPhone. Click on an ad. Yeah, it's I actually had to put some timeouts in there because it was too fast for you to see. And it also written a message to the seller. And all of that took literally 15 seconds. And now I don't have 100% proof that nothing is going to break, but I know this is not going to break, and I feel so much more safe. Another flow, if I wanted to sell something, Cypress is really amazing at improving the speed of your test, because look how fast it is, like it's typing, especially in this form. I can't type this fast. And what is fantastic about this, like, don't get me wrong, this is not a replacement for human beings. You need someone to take a look at your app. You need someone to validate whether the experience is suitable for your users. But because of automation, your QA engineers and other team members, they can focus on improving the actual user experience instead of typing this text in this form 30 times in a row, because it is daunting. They can improve on, they could look at animations, general user experience, general look and feel, whether there are any typos or your marketing copy, is it convincing enough? And if you have a large number of tests, like we do, because we operate on a huge amount of countries, there's a feature in Cypress which is called the dashboard. And dashboard allows you to monitor the state of your tests and see how your different, for instance, environment behave. So this is what it looks like. You can get your own organization in Cypress. So I have the organization which is called Tomasz Łakomy Industries. I'm a CEO and CTO because I'm alone. And there are 4 recorded runs here. And for some reason, one of them actually failed. So I wonder what happened. Let me dig in. So you can click on the recorded run and see, oh, okay. I have some tests, and I have a fail spec.js that actually failed. I mean, given this name, it probably should. So let's see what's going on. And the best part is that I don't have to go through logs. I can just go ahead, click on a thing, and watch a video. Like a human being. I don't have to be like a machine scrolling through logs. I can spend 15 seconds watching a video, and I see, oh, okay, I was expecting this, but I got that. And now I can get to work. Or if I don't have the time, or maybe it's someone else's responsibility, I can just save this video and add it to a Jira ticket. And they know exactly what is going on. I don't have to describe it. I just can share it. And it's really simple in this behavior because it also improves the communication in your team, because what you are allowed to do is that you can reproduce this on your local environment with ease. You don't have to describe, okay, oh yeah, so I did this, and then I think I click on that, but I'm not entirely sure. You know what I mean? It's so easy to reproduce those tests. Also, if you have a large number of tests, you probably want to be able to run those tests on different machines at once. So this is a screenshot from my team's production environment. So like I said, we are kind of like a little startup within OLX, but still, we have 13 specs, 39 tests in total, testing all of our core user flows. So we are not testing them manually because we do trust Cypress. And Cypress actually told us, you know what? You can run those tests on multiple machines at once. Because when we were running those on a single machine, it was a couple of minutes. Right now, we are running those on 5 machines, and it's less than a minute. And actually, it told me, you know what? If you could run it on 7 machines, it would be less than 40 seconds. And I did that after I took the screenshot and added to the slides. So right now, our tests are running under 40 seconds. I would like to do something which I shouldn't. I don't like live coding. I think live coding is a terrible, terrible idea, and nobody should ever do it. But I love you folks, so I'm going to do it just for you. So what I'm going to do is that we are going to do some Cypress IO testing live. Okay, so let me switch to the app. Okay, so this is the app that I'm going to test. Basically, what we have right now is this is a to-do list. I'm sure you've seen one of those. You can add a to-do, remove a to-do. So it's nothing overly complicated. But the thing is that imagine this is a mission-critical app. You probably want to make sure that it actually works. So let's test it. So what we have over here is my Visual Studio Code and also the Cypress UI. Right now, I have a very complicated test because I'm testing whether true equals true. And boy, oh boy, it's true. If I change it to false, the test is going to fail. Now I can change it back to true again, but notice when I save the test, Cypress is going to restart automatically. And it's incredibly fast. I know right now I'm checking only for true, but even so, if you write more complicated use cases, this speed, it's not slowing down. It maintains this very rapid speed of development. Okay, so I would like to do some testing. Okay, I'm going to copy this URL, and the way you interact with the Cypress Cypress API is through the global CY object. So I'm going to use that. No. I don't want crypto. I don't want any Bitcoin. God damn it. Yes, CY, visit, and I'm going to copy and paste this URL. And after I save that, it's going to visit the page within the Cypress UI. There are a couple of interesting things here that I would like to highlight. First up, and this blew my mind the first time I saw it, this is fully interactive. So I can add something, remove something, and I can interact with my app within the Cypress UI. This is hugely useful because sometimes your tests end up with this weird situation. For instance, imagine you're trying to test Twitter and you are somehow between adding and removing a tweet at the same time. You have no idea what is going on. But here you can dig in and manually see what is going on. And also, if you would like to, you can pause your test at any given moment in order to ensure that you understand what your test is actually doing. Next up, if you hover over a request, you're going to see that Cypress shows you how the state of the app behaves before and after the request was sent. So you have those extra tools that allows you to see how exactly the state of your app is changing with each request, with each user action, and so on and so forth. Again, this is incredibly useful. By the way, if you are used to console-driven debugging, like I am, I love console log. This is the best debugging tool ever. If you click on a request and open up console, you can see all kinds of useful info about this request. So it was sent to API to-dos, and also the response of this request had 3 to-do items. So again, you don't have to write those console log even. It's given to you by the Cypress team, so you can focus on testing your app. All right? Let me write some tests. So what I'm going to do is that I would like to check how many to-do items do I have here. So in order to test with Cypress and get this, you are using jQuery. And this is incredible. I get to use jQuery on stage. So it's to-do list, li. This is not a joke, by the way. Cypress is actually including jQuery, and this is fine because you are not shipping this to the users. So to-do list, li, it should have length of 3, right? Okay, this test seems to be passing. Awesome. Can I go home now? Not really, not really. I can't because what if someone were to do this? Whoops. All right, and now if I restart the test, yeah, it's going to fail. It's going to fail because I'm expecting 3 items and I have 4. Oh crap. So what do I do? What do I do? Can I do this? I mean, I can, right? But this, again, is not a good test because someone can add something, remove something. We can have a meeting and tell everybody, don't touch this, but we know how it's going to work. It's not going to work. Because with testing, what you need is to have a known state of the app at the end of each test, your idea of how the app should behave, and then you compare your idea with the actual behavior of the app. So in order to have a predictable state of the app at the beginning of the test, you need to be able to control the backend. So in order to do that with Cypress, there's a server command. So I'm going to show you just a minute. So basically what you do is that you can run a cy.server, and this allows you to control your app's backend. And whenever there's a GET request to API to-dos, you get me this array. By the way, I'm so good at live coding, I'm going to do it with only one hand. And there we go. Right now, whenever there's a request to this API, I'm expecting 4 to-dos, and wouldn't you believe that? I actually have 4. And then that is, honestly, this is incredibly useful because now I can control my backend and I get to test exactly the things I want. But beware, do not write all of your tests with fake backend. Because if you have all of the tests that are mocking your backend and then your database is down, you may not notice. You need to have a healthy mixture of both tests that are running against your actual database and also tests that are running against those fixtures. In my experience, the healthy mix is about 80-20. So 80% of the tests should run against fixtures like those, and 20% should run against your production database or staging database. I mean, any database, just in case. In any case, we probably are going to use this this array quite a lot. So what Cypress allows us to do is that within the fixtures folder, you can create your own JSON files. So basically, whenever the request gets sent to this API, I would like to return this JSON file instead. So I'm going to remove all of that. And what we are going to do is fixture to-dos. Now, if I save that, Cypress is going basically to get this file from the fixture folder and just return it whenever there's a request to API to-dos. OK. I'm going to make this test fail now. And you will notice that it's not failing at an instant. It actually waits for quite some time. It waits for 4 seconds. Because the idea is that, I'm not sure if you've noticed, but some of the web apps out there are kind of slow. So Cypress is actually aware of that. It gives you the benefit of a doubt is that, it's OK. I'm going to wait for a bit. Maybe backend is a bit slow. Maybe I'm waiting for some animation. Let me wait for a bit. But after 4 seconds, it's going to fail the test. So in order to see it in action, I'm going to make my app slow on purpose. So here within this component.mount, I'm going to load the to-dos after 5 seconds. And I'm going to fix this test but it's not going to pass because I'm expecting 4 items after 4 seconds, but I'm sending the request after 5 seconds. So I should be able to somehow wait for this request to resolve. And you can do that with Cypress. Basically what you do is that henceforth, this request shall be known as load. And over here I can do cy wait for load. And this is going to wait up to 20 seconds. And I think this is fine. I mean, this is by default. You can extend it, but in my opinion, if a test has to wait for something for over 20 seconds, you probably want to fail it anyway, because you probably have a performance problem that you should fix in the first place. But still, if I save that, it's going to wait. And after 5 seconds, it's going to resolve this request. And boom, we have a passing test. All right, awesome. This combination of setting up the server, visiting the homepage, waiting for some requests to resolve, this is probably something you will want to have in multiple tests. And that is OK. Cypress allows you to define your own custom commands in the commands.js file. So here I'm creating a new command, which is called initialize app, and does exactly those things. Get the server, whenever there's a GET request to this API, get me the to-dos fixture, visit the homepage, and wait for this request to resolve. Also, if you would like to, you can create custom commands out of custom commands, but please don't go too far. As in, I've seen some really interesting combinations of like functions that are generating other functions that were generating other tests, and it's crazy complicated to debug. And you probably should avoid that. Like if you want more complexity than Java, this is JavaScript that keeps things simple. So what I'm going to do is that cy initialize app, and right now we have a passing test, and all of those commands were put as a single command. Let me just make sure that this app is not slow anymore. And off we go. We have a passing test, 2 lines, and right now we do know that there are those 4 to the items. Let me show you a slightly more interesting example. So I'm going to copy and paste that. Whenever this, I would like to test if I'm able to add a new to-do, but there will be an error from the backend side, and I would like to see how my app is behaving. So I'm going to save, and this test is going to pass. But let's take a look at the code. I'm starting up the server. Whenever there's a post request to this API, I would like to have a 500 error with an empty object as a response. I'm going to initialize the app and get the new to-do input, type some text, press enter on the keyboard, wait for the request to resolve, and I'm waiting for whenever I have 4 items in the to-do list, and also I should have the error visible. And the best part is that I didn't have to read all this code, because if you open up Cypress UI and hover over those items one by one, you can see exactly what your test is doing with each step of your journey. You don't even have to read the code. And this, honestly, like looking at the ever-changing state of your app, for me, it's fun. And I've personally seen engineers volunteering to write tests. I'm going to say that again. Engineers were volunteering to write tests. Because in my humble opinion, with Cypress, this promise is delivered. We get to finally test our code and not our patience. Thank you so much for listening.
This video recording was brought to you by Twilio. We allow you to integrate different means of communication such as video, chat, or SMS into your React applications. If you want to learn how you can send SMS directly from a React chat, check out this video on the right or go to our Twilio YouTube channel. And if you want to watch another React India talk, we picked one out just for you over here on the left. Thanks for watching.